Today we're going to talk about how to pass your Esthetician State Board licensing exam on the first try. Hey y'all, my name is Brigid Marie and this is Brigid Marie TV. I like to make lifestyle content, faith-based content. I'm a Christian vlogger and I love to share my esthetician stuff as well. If you're new here, please go ahead and click the like and subscribe button and let's start talking about how to pass this Esthetician State Board license exam. So first things first, yes, I am a licensed esthetician in the state of Arizona. Woo-hoo! I know every state is different and has their own requirements and everything, but a lot of the information overlaps a lot of times from state to state, so it's still definitely helpful. So just a little backstory for you guys. I went to Avalon Institute in Phoenix, Arizona, and it was an accelerated program, so it was 4.5 months, full-time school, so I went Tuesday through Saturday. And it was a hybrid program, so it was partially online and in person for the duration of the whole course. And I ended up graduating in August of 2023, woo-woo! And I went ahead and took my state board licensing test in September. In the state of Arizona, we have a theory test and a practical test. The difference is, though, from other states that after Rona came in and messed everything up, the practical no longer became like an in-person test. It became a written exam as well, but based on the things that you would be doing in a practical examination if we were there in person. So like facial steps and what comes next in an exfoliation process, what comes next when you're doing waxing and epilation, like all those type of things that you would be doing in person for your practical were actually in a written examination on the computer. I really liked that the practical became a like written test for us. I feel like I do better in that situation, so I really liked it. The only good thing to come from Rona, I guess, was that it was turned into this like non-in-person thing. But I'll go over what was in that test if your state is similar to Arizona. We also have a theory test like pretty much every other state obviously has, and that's like more of the sciencey stuff behind what we learned in school. And that test to me was pretty difficult. I'm gonna be honest. Some of my girlfriends who went to school with me thought that test was way easier, which blows my mind. It goes to prove that everybody is truly different when it comes to testing and when it comes to like information that they retain and how their brain like, you know, goes through all the stuff that we learned and how it can retrieve it, how easy or not easy it retrieves the information. So for me, it was a little bit difficult for sure. I'm not able to see my full score, so I don't know like if I got a 95, I don't know if I got a 76. I don't know the exact score. It just pops up and say pass or fail. So for me, obviously it showed up pass, baby, pass, yay! Because who has time to be taking these tests multiple times? Time and money, because like they cost money to take this stuff. As we were getting close to our graduation date, our school gave us like a packet that had theory examination, like what to expect, a full paper on it, which was really helpful. The packet came from NIC, which is the National Interstate Council of State Board of Cosmetology. So this girl right here, I feel like this really saved me. No cap. The packet came with like examination content and important instructions for like before our test actually took place, and it gave like reference material just so we had an idea of what to expect and like how the questions would be kind of worded to get it through our brain like, okay, this is what's gonna happen. So it also told us like general information about our testing, like don't leave the testing center, don't bring your cell phone in, don't have any electronic equipment on you, don't be cheating, like pretty obvious stuff. So it kind of gave you an idea of what to expect, which I really appreciate because I'm like a visual person. If I can't visualize something happening for myself, I get anxiety. So this packet was like so good for me. It also broke down on this packet like the percentages of what would be expected on the examination. So like, for example, it shows like domain 1, scientific concepts, and that would make up 55% worth of my theory exam. My theory exam had 110 questions, and 100 of them were weighted and contributed to my final score. So within like the scientific concepts, it broke down like basic knowledge of microbiology, apply knowledge of infection control procedures related to like levels of infection control, methods of infection control. It talked about applying knowledge of safety procedures and guidelines. It told us to demonstrate a basic understanding of human physiology and anatomy and what those things would be related to, like cells and tissues and all that kind of stuff. It wanted us to demonstrate an understanding of histology and physiology, like the structures of our glands and like the layers of our skin, which every esthetician should just know that anyway, but like, you know, it can be hard to recall information in a pinch sometimes, so definitely know those things. It told us like recognizing and understanding skin disorders and diseases. That was honestly a really big one for my testing. And then it talked about understanding functions and composites of the hair, so you know, like the growth structure and cycle of hair, understanding basic chemistry. And then it went on to talk about skincare and services, which would make up 45% of the test. Now, again, this is what our school gave us. I don't know if this is specific to the state that you're in, but in general, this kind of broke it down so I could understand what to expect, because there's so much information that we get, and some of us are in accelerated programs, so it's such a short amount of time. So you're not taking, you know, like a year to really get this information in there. It's like 4.5 months. Boom, 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 boom. This is what we're doing. This is how to do it. Like, get ready, hold on. So this was like perfect to kind of visualize and see what I could expect for theory testing. So when it comes to the skincare and services, it broke down like demonstrate an understanding of performing a client's consultation, like basically, you know, their charts and everything. Skin analysis, contraindications for services, treatment protocols, demonstrate an understanding of cleansing procedures, steaming, exfoliation, basic understanding of massage movements. That's really important for sure. Demonstrate an understanding of extractions, functions and applications of masks. So like different types of masks, gel mask, clay mask, like what they're for and everything. Like the conclusion of facial services, what we want to end with, moisturizer and sunscreen, that kind of stuff. Like this part of the portion of it, the skincare and services, is like the hands-on stuff that we learned. So this is stuff that should be like in there, like swimwear, because, you know, we're giving each other facials all the time in school and learning how to wax and doing it consistently on each other. So this is stuff that's really like rely on the recall portion of what you did. Like visually see what you were doing in class and how you were taught, and that would help you for sure in this section of testing. But I did, when it came to the like scientific concepts, I knew that was kind of like a weaker point for me. So learning the vocab and knowing what's what and like what condition is what stage of hair growth is what, like the order of them is very important. You definitely want to know about your safety data sheets, how to handle the material that you're using, like our barbicide, our cleaning stuff, like all that kind of stuff. You definitely want to pay attention to when it comes to the theory portion of your examination. What I did with this little printout or whatever, I went through and I wrote the chapters that pertained to that information. So I would put a check mark once I had gone through that portion of my book. That brings me to another point. Get yourself a book. I'm old school girl. I like to have a hard copy, baby. I don't like the digital copies of this book because I want to write stuff in the margins. I'm a book gal, okay? I just like to have it with me. So if you're like that, get the book for sure. If you don't already have it from school, it helps to study the chapters like hands on. So like I went through and I wrote, okay, so I know that infection control procedures is in chapter 5 of my book. So I went over chapter 5 for like a few hours. And then I went through and I said, okay, where do I find out about human physiology and anatomy, like the cells and their function? Okay, that's chapter 6 in my book. And then I just kept going on with the different points that they were making, and the corresponding chapters so that I could go through. I studied for probably, it was like a week and a half before I took my examination. So I graduated school the end of August. I took my examination the 14th and the 15th of September. I took a week off from anything aesthetic to let my brain rest. I just needed a break because it was a quick program. I was in school full time. I was working still. I was driving 4 hours a day to get to school and back. So it was a lot for me. So I needed to take a week break before I went back to hitting the books. So I studied for a week and a half before I took my examinations. And that's how I did it. I broke it down into chapters and I just went in and I spent a couple hours on each chapter, reading them, going through. If I didn't have the time to read the chapter, which, like I said, I only studied for a week and a half. So I didn't have I was still working during that time. It was still a lot of things going on. So I wasn't studying 8 hours a day. But when I was at work, girl, you best believe I had Glam and Beyond on my phone playing. I would be at the register checking people out and I would have her reading chapters on freaking, the stages of hair growth. Or I would have her, reading the chapter on chemistry and electricity. Just so I was getting it in my brain kind of passively, but it was still in there. It was more like I was refreshing everything that I had already learned, but I was refreshing consistently on a daily basis. So I would either have it on playing and customers would be like, "What are you listening to?" And I'm like, "I'm trying to pass my state board exams, okay?" And they would laugh and be like, "Oh, good for you, good luck." So do it wherever, whenever. Seriously, who cares if people hear you listening to it? Just get the knowledge in your brain. Keep it moving, keep it going, keep it reiterating so that you can recall the information when it comes to your test. I also downloaded an Esthetician State app on my phone. It was $9.99 a month. The app is called Esthetician Exam Center. I have an iPhone, so it was on my, in my Apple app or whatever, my marketplace. And it was $9.99 a month. Like I said, I just bought it for a month and went through and answered a bunch of questions every night. Now, the exact questions that are on the exam were not on this app, but the ideas of the questions were on the actual exam, if that makes sense. So the general points of it, what does this phase of hair growth signify, or what is it called, or whatever. That question might be on this Exam Center app, but that exact question is not going to be on the exam, but something similar to it will be. So don't just go through and memorize those app questions, but kind of memorize the ideas behind them and think of them in different ways, one or two different ways, because that's the way the theory is that it asks the question a slightly different way than it might be in your book, but it's still the same question. You feel me? In this little packet that they gave us, they also gave examples of the questions like I had said. So here, let me give you a couple examples really quick. A new client schedules a series of chemical exfoliation treatments. When should the consultation form be renewed and signed? A, monthly, B, annually, C, at the first treatment, or D, at each treatment. Each treatment, girl. Another question that's similar was, dilated capillaries that can be seen beneath the surface of the skin are known as A, seborrhea, B, keratoma, C, telangiectasia, or D, dehydration. So it's C, telangiectasia. So that's kind of an example of the questions that they gave us in this packet to study beforehand. Girl, I don't want to make this video too long, so I gotta wrap this up. So now you know what to kind of expect on your theory portion of your examination. Definitely study. That is number one. You have to study. Don't just rely on everything you learned in school. You have to get in your book. You have to be listening to it at least at the bare minimum a couple hours a day for sure. There's no cheat code to how to pass this test. You just have to study for it. If you're in Arizona, if you're here, now your written examination, it's going to be the exact same way as the theory is laid out. It's going to be on the computer and you're going to be taking a written practical test. It did the same thing in our packet. It outlined what we can expect for our written portion. And like I said, it's basically exactly the same as if you were taking your practical in person and you had to go there and like show the steps of your facial and show different massage techniques and putting on your mask and like all that kind of stuff, or putting on, you know, the band-aid. What steps would you take during your practical examination were the same type of questions that were asked in the written portion or practical of our examination for Arizona. You definitely want to understand like Fitzpatrick's types. You want to understand kind of like the steps of your actual facial, the steps of setting up a room, that kind of stuff. So it's really, honestly, the written was way easier for me. I actually was having fun, craziness, taking the test, because I was like, oh, this is kind of like, it was like a brain tickler, you know, like I was just like, oh yeah, I know what to do next. Like, this is what I would do. And I passed the test knowing the information like that, because it's really just like common sense. If you're an esthetician and you went to school, it's common sense. I totally know that's so unfair that my like practical test was actually a written test. I know I feel bad for y'all taking it in person, but I will say our school did still give us a similar examination called our 450. So like if Rona didn't happen, the same stuff I was doing at my 450 test in school is the exact same thing I would be doing at the state board testing, like at a facility with a bunch of other SDs getting ready, you know, to pass their test. So it still helped having done that 450 in our school, because I still now experience what y'all are going to experience for your written or for your practical examination, but it was at school and not for the state. Since I still kind of know what it feels like to have to take that test, because I was really nervous for it, the number one thing I can say is that you need to be organized. Like, our state has us put it in packs, or they did have us put it in packets, you know, back before Rona. Everything would be very detailed. So like our packet would have exactly what I needed in it. So I didn't want to have extra supplies of stuff, because then in my brain, like if I have a bunch of paper towels left over, I'm like, what am I using all these paper towels for? Did I miss a step? No, if I've used every single one, then I know that I've followed the steps correctly. So be organized for sure in your testing, especially for your practical. Like, it's so important. Label the things that you are allowed by your state to label, and set them up accordingly. Just don't have all your stuff like all out on the table and like unorganized or whatever. Take the time. I know, like for us, it was timed. Take the time to set them out correctly in the order that you need them to be. That like couple extra seconds will save you feeling anxious when you're like, okay, what's next? What's next? You know, when the proctor comes around and they're looking at your mannequin and whatever, and you're like nervous because they're standing right there looking at you. It's okay. You could take a breather because you got all your products lined up in the order that you need to use them. Everything's set out correctly and looks nice. So just do yourself that favor and like take your time and set it up according to like the actual steps that you need to take. Girl, that's all I got for you. That's how you gonna pass your test. I know you can pass your test. That's the actual material, you know, what you need to be studying, which all of our schools normally give out anyway. But let me tell you this. The last thing, honestly, this was the first thing for me that I did to prepare, is I relied on the Lord, baby. Ain't no way I could do any of this without his help. And you know what I prayed for? Supernatural recall. Because I was like, Lord, I need you to supernaturally help me remember all the information that I've been studying for all these months. And he did. He allowed me to be able to like retain the information, to understand it better. Like, he helped me so much in understanding the information and recalling the information when I needed it. And he's the number one reason I passed. Hands down, girl. Because he enabled me to be able to like study diligently, to be prepared. And I just really thank him. I give him all the honor and glory for having passed both my examinations and giving me the strength to be able to do it. So don't leave that step out, girl. Pray. the Lord's a resource. Use him. He's the number one resource, girl. So use him for sure when it comes to passing your test. I'm not playing. I'm gonna add this last little tidbit for you. Trust yourself. Usually the first thing that you think of, the first answer that you be thinking about on these tests is the correct answer, because your brain knows the information. As long as you've been paying attention in school, as long as you have been passing your tests in school, you're going to be good. And if you know your weaknesses, study those. If you know what you're maybe not the best at, study those things so you can start to build your confidence, because that's another thing. You should have confidence when you go in there. Confidence in what you've learned, confidence in the work that you've put in, confidence in just yourself. Like, don't let all that time you spent at school and learning this information be for nothing. Like, believe in yourself when it comes to taking your test. If you liked this video or found it useful at all, please click the like and subscribe button. Like I said, I make a lot of lifestyle, faith-based content and my esthetician content, so it's all kind of jam-packed into my channel. And I'd love to show you more of my journey of setting up my new salon spa, my mobile spa that's coming up, the remodel and everything. I have a new vlog out already, and that shows like the first demo process of the spa. I'm so excited, girl. I'm so excited. So yeah, if you want to follow along on that part of it, like going solo as a new esthetician, make sure you subscribe. And thank you so much for watching. I have faith in you that you can pass this on your first go around. Just put in the work, girl. That it all boils down to putting in the work. I pray for each and every one of my girls on here that you will pass your test, that you will be successful as estheticians, whether you're in med spa, whether you're solo, or whether you work for a chain spa, whatever. I pray blessings over you, and that you pass this test, girl, and that your future is bright and fruitful in the name of Jesus. I'll see you in the next one.